Hey everyone, Bo here. I wanted to talk today about this article that got shared a bunch in my Twitter news feed the other day, and I wanted to discuss the implications and really the message that's communicated from an article like this, and how it just really upset me. I found myself so irritated by it, and for a hot minute I couldn't quite articulate why. Then I thought about it, and I honed in on the issue. So basically, I was on Twitter a few days ago, and several of the people I follow retweeted and quote tweeted this article, the headline of which is "Gay Couple Who Wanted a Son Sue IVF Clinic After Surrogate Gives Birth to Daughter." And to add insult to injury, the publication responsible for this article, or at least the version of it I kept seeing get shared and retweeted and quote tweeted, is Pink News. Pink News is a website, publication, e-zine you could call it, that is notorious for being TRAs. They are trans rights activists, although I really do think a more appropriate term for such people is something like male supremacist activists, because that's what they're really doing. Because another name for Pink News that gender crits I've seen call it is penis news, because they are very penis-centric. Like, that's what the quote-unquote TRA movement is. It's a very penis-centric movement, a very male demands-centric movement, a very male supremacy-centric movement. And TRA is a bit of a misnomer. So Pink News, they're these huge advocates and pushers of gender ideology, of the belief that men, that is a term that is defined as adult male humans, can be women. That is a term that still means female adult humans. So they push an ideology that believes in something quite impossible. This is why people refer to trans ideology as a religion or akin to one, because it is very faith-based in its beliefs. And that's just one flaw of it. It's also extremely sexist. It's also quite misogynistic. It kind of necessitates both of those things to function as an ideology. The beliefs are inherently sexist and misogynistic. It's like I've said this before, it's like they've actually turned sexism into a religion. Trans ideology it's a religion of sexism. Sexism has transformed into a religion, and it is what TRAs and male supremacists push and believe in and are fighting for under the guise of equality. Equality like males having the right to enter female spaces, because now we have to pretend that male pattern violence isn't a thing, that women's history, girls' history, girls currently are not especially vulnerable to males. They never were. There was never a thing like female oppression. There's no such thing as male depravity regarding sexual depravity. Males dominating in like sex crimes, including like upskirt shots and hiding peep cameras, stuff like that. We have to pretend men were never the dominant figures in that. Males were never. And then, even if we acknowledge it, then we have to say that without any evidence or proof, we have to just say that the way that cis males are a danger is not replicated in trans women. Trans women, cis men, even though they share maleness, which even that you're not supposed to remind anyone of, because the number one rule of trans ideology: never remind them of their sex, ever. It's your biggest sin. So anything you do or say that violates that cardinal rule is grounds for shunning and maybe even threats. So this was upsetting for multiple reasons. And at first I couldn't even articulate why. It was like I read it and something kind of snapped low-key in me. Like, this should be a jig is up kind of moment, People in my feed kept quote tweeting this article, sort of jokingly asking why the fathers couldn't just assign their kid to be their son. But I think that question should be asked seriously. I'm seriously asking it. If sex is an assignment to these people, then why not assign the one that they want? Assignment implies choice. So can't they choose based on any criteria they decide? Any kind of assignment based on anatomy is sexism, right? So why not assign based on their desires instead, right? Maybe because a note of observation literally just isn't an assignment. Noting that a dog is male is not me assigning the dog male. Me noting that a baby has a cleft palate is not me assigning the baby with a cleft palate. That's just what it's called in our language, English in this case, when a baby has this particular type of deformity, when a dog has this particular type of genitalia, when a human baby has this particular type of genitalia. That would exist whatever name we gave it. We just gave it a name though. This physical phenomenon, it exists regardless. It's the reality of our species, regardless of whether it's acknowledged with a name or not. Penis having babies, outward genitals having babies have always existed, will continue to exist, just like inward genitals having babies, whatever you want to call that type of genitalia, they have always existed. They will always exist. And there will always only be one type of human who can have babies. There will always only be one type of human who can impregnate. I feel like people, especially gender crits, need to never let Penis News forget that they wrote this article. 'Cause you can't say AFAB this and AMAB that, which, if for those who somehow don't know, AFAB is assigned female at birth. It's the alternative to just saying woman, girl, or female. And AMAB, as you could guess, is assigned male at birth, alternative to saying man, boy, or male. So, yeah, you can't just say AFAB this, AMAB that, prefer we use that in place of words that already exist, that already cover those types of humans, then write an article like this, completely shattering and contradicting the false claim of assigning in that language that we're all being compelled to use. It's just, it feels like trolling in a way. It feels like taunting. It feels like a type of taunting how people who inexplicably have way more power than any of us, I guess, get to force and compel everyone, including official organizations, schools, to use and teach this dishonest language. But then they themselves get to be honest about language to serve themselves and all of the devotees of gender ideology. So why would they stay silent as Pink, their ally publication, this huge gender ideology pusher, prints an article so boldly contradicting the idea of sex being assigned? Because they know AFAB and AMAB is a lie. They know, but push it anyway and vilify and monster and unfairly and disproportionately hate and threaten and ostracize anyone who criticizes the idea of sex being an assignment, despite their own side admitting that it's not, with articles like this. It's so vile when you really think about it. How has such an obvious lie become social suicide to scrutinize, even politely, even lovingly? How are even intelligent on paper people pushing it? Why doesn't more of the left push back or question things? How can they just be okay and so on board with maiming girls' and boys' healthy bodies in the name of such a sexist belief system? How are sexist biases so strong that it's progressives that think that a male child feeling like an inadequate boy because he's gender non-conforming deserves adults responding to him by saying essentially that he's right, by saying that he's right to question that someone as socially feminine, for lack of a better word, as himself might be a girl because of his interests, because of his feelings, because those aren't male feelings. This is a kid thinking this, and of course they would. Like, did you forget what it is to be a kid? How susceptible you are to sexism? How quickly we categorize things, how early we learn to categorize things as girl and boy shit. How is it that the progressives, the intellectuals here, are the ones who are not willing to unpack the sexism of this, who don't have the instinct to instead reassure this boy that he could never be an inadequate boy, because boy is just the name for his sex and age combination. And there's no rule about how he gets to behave or dress as a boy. Yeah, there are norms, but breaking the norms don't unsex you. How is the left not the ones saying this overwhelmingly? This is why I've been calling it for years now co-bullying, as in cooperative bullying. Once upon a time, maybe 10 years ago now, it would have been lefties who hear this boy being teased because he likes to wear dresses and he likes to wear makeup, and his classmates call him a girl and say he's behaving like a girl. And lefty parents would have said, no honey, that doesn't make you a girl. You can dress however you want. You being soft, you being sweet, you wanting to help, mommy cook, whatever. None of that makes you a girl. Boys can do all of this and you're still perfectly a boy. And these kids in your class, they're dumb. They're mean and they're dumb and they don't understand. 10 years ago, maybe. And now, that little boy comes home, and now his progressive parents are like, well, maybe you are a girl, honey. That is so backwards. This is so, it's cooperative bullying. Now you're joining in the classmates. You're saying it in a softer, kinder way, but it is cooperative bullying. Because he's bullying himself, you're going along with it, the kids are going along with it. It's a mess. This is so backwards. Anyone with the most basic level of intelligence, the most basic ability to critique, should see the sexism in all of this, should be unpacking it, should have the instinct to know this is wrong on a fundamental level. Co-signing sexism to children is wrong. It's wrong. What you're doing is wrong. You think you're right, but you're the devil who's deluded into thinking you're an angel. What you're doing is evil. Making kids think that their healthy bodies are wrong is evil. Kids, you could convince kids that a fat man flies around the world and delivers presents to every Christian child in the whole goddamn world. And yet and you're telling me but kids know what they're doing. You can convince kids of so much bullshit. That's why we have these methods, these attempts anyway, to protect children, because they are so naturally gullible, because they are so susceptible to peer pressure, to sexism, to societal brainwashing. So, the adults are supposed to be the ones who set them straight, who break it down with their adult brains, or break down what's happening here, who unpack when that kid says I'm not a girl, what that's about. You don't co-sign it. And it blows my mind, and this is where it really does feel like taunting, that Penis News used the words son and daughter. That's the language they chose to use for the headline. Son and daughter, which I know in gender ideology, those are roles, not sexes. So how could this couple know that they got a daughter instead of a son so immediately? They don't know anything about this kid, right? It's a newborn baby. So how do they know it's not their son? Huh? How do they know that? This article forces us to contend with the fact that they're knowingly demanding and forcing the world to lie. You can't just enforce dishonest and absurd language and a dishonest and absurd ideology on the masses that you yourself don't even truly adhere to when tested by reality. And again, if you really truly believe that sex is assigned at birth, then why wouldn't this child have just been assigned the sex that the couple requested? Huh? Why couldn't they just tell the surrogate, aka the financially coerced woman they used and couldn't have possibly paid enough to rent the body and womb of, to make sure when she's, with the doctors and the nurses, to remind them they're looking for a son, so make sure you assign accordingly. If females can be sons too, then why the disappointment? Why isn't that mentioned in the article? Why is there no critique about how these fathers are in the wrong for assuming that their female child can't be their son? Where is that? If that's what you believe, where is that? And I can feel how stupid that sounds, because it is stupid. But this is what you believe. This is the language that you're requesting / demanding everyone use. AFAB, AMAB. That means you believe that. And if it's too stupid when we actually implement that, when we actually treat that like it's real, like in a situation like this, that the sex could have been assigned, and you feel I sound like I'm saying something trolly, then that's because you recognize that your belief system is dishonest and trolly. It should be understood that an aspect of any sort of baby making involves a chance for you to become a parent to either sex. And this is why parents need to be forced to accept that, like, in the contract, because this is a human life we're talking about. You can't be like a half-assed mother or father because this is not the sex that you wanted. This is like the fucked up, creepy part of baby engineering. It feels extra, because I know parents who conceive naturally can also have gender regrets, sex regrets. I've seen those gender reveal videos where the father just cannot hide his anger or disappointment that he's having a daughter. Yes, that happens. That is like a dummy, because that is understood, even if in the moment he's acting like upset. He knew. All men know it could go either way. That's kind of the point of a gender reveal party, because you know it could go either way. You're acknowledging it in having a gender reveal party that you don't know yet, right? So it's a little different when it's like, oh, we want brown eyes, we want widow's peak. I know you can't get that specific, but I don't know, the sex is close enough. We want two, it's like Angela from The Office. I wouldn't mind two well-behaved little boys. Like, that's not really how life works. And again, as this demonstrates, like, you can say, oh, actually it does work like that, because you can select the sex. Well, actually, sometimes that plan can go wrong. Sometimes they think they put in an X and it's a Y. Whoops. Whoopsie. And now we have a whole human on our hands that we have to raise, that apparently we didn't mentally prepare for being a possibility. And this is the issue, because, like, think about that. Now they've made a whole human with, who shares DNA with one of them, and here she is in the world. She now exists. She is the daughter of two dads who don't want her. Let's be real. But they have to have her. I'm assuming they're not so callous that they're gonna, like, give her up for adoption. Maybe they will. Maybe they're that uncomfortable around female people, and so maybe they will give her up for adoption. I don't know. Oy, that is just so fucked up. But if they keep her, she needs to be raised with love and care and no bitterness over her sex being wrong. So yeah, it's just so frustrating. Like, shouldn't this headline and the lawsuit be getting called out by quote-unquote TRAs? Like, if to so many of them, lesbians having a quote-unquote genital preference is argued as wrong and phobic, transphobic, isn't this what the dads are doing? Like, the height of transphobic genital preferences? Shouldn't Pink News's angle be more of a critique of these fathers assuming that their female child can't be their son? The word you chose, like, ugh. It's taunting, it's trolling. You said son. That they got a son and not a daughter, and your whole thing is daughter is a role, son is a role, woman is a role, man is a role. But what happened to that? How do they know they don't have a son? These are roles, so how do they know? This is gender. They don't know what gender the kid is yet, right? Gender is the roles part, is the role in a society you choose for yourself that you feel internally. So how do they know? How do they know this baby, female baby, isn't going to be their son? Why don't they just do that? Why don't they just raise it as their son? What's the lawsuit for even? Sex is inconsequential, right? It's an assignment, right? So assign the one you want then. Like, at the very least, you would have thought that Pink News wouldn't co-sign tying anatomy to being a son or a daughter. But they did. No use of AFAB or AMAB in this entire article. So yeah, gender crits, don't forget this article. When they get on that bullshit about AFAB this, AMAB that, pull up this article, link in the description, pull it up. Oh, but you acknowledge here that AFAB is not a reality, because this couple you acknowledge didn't get the son they wanted. But how could they know that? How could they know they didn't get a son? Why didn't you question how they knew that? Penis News? Where's the inquiry? Where is the critique? What happened to that? What happened to the ideology that you supposedly believe in, that you want to enshrine into law and teach to children? Liars. So I guess I'm done. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!